All right, welcome. We're delighted to have you here with us tonight, and it looks like we have some talented art students with us tonight. We're really excited about that. We'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance being led by Craig Brinkerhoff. If you'll stand, please.
Please repeat the pledge with me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Our inspirational thought or reflection tonight would be by Kim Plank.
I love this opportunity to come and celebrate good things that are happening. It's really easy to find the negative and dwell on the negative, but it's so much happier, and there's so much good in the world when we can come and celebrate it. So just a little quote I found was, look for the good in every person, in every situation, and you'll almost always find it.
Thank you. We'd like to excuse Board Member Lincoln. She was here a few minutes ago, but she is not feeling well at all, and so she is on her way home to recoup. All right, let's honor some art students. These are art students from American Fork High School, American Fork Junior, Barrett, and so on. And so, Board Member Clement, will you start us off?
Certainly. I just wanted to, first of all, tell you a little bit about the emotional response I have when I look at this art. Sometimes it's not all that easy to be a board member, but when I look at that art and think of all these skills that students are developing, it gives me courage to move forward, and I really appreciate that encouragement because I need it. So students from the American Fork Cluster have had artwork displayed here for the last few months. We'd like to thank all the students for allowing their art to be displayed in our hallways. The artwork's transformed the district office into an art gallery of sorts, adding color and beauty for all to enjoy. Quite often you can see patrons and employees stopping to admire the different pieces that are displayed. So we're starting here with American Fork High. And so if you would mind raising your hand or something when we call your name. Andrea Sandberg, Anna Gaines, Brenda Gonzalez Beristain, Brinley White, Corbett Youngberg, Emery Starker, Evangeline Davis, Haley Lane, Kylie Finch, and Parker Geddes. We appreciate you being here. We're going to go ahead and take a picture, and then if you'd kind of come through and shake everybody's hands. Parents, as soon as we take the first picture, you're welcome to get your own.
I could put you next to your picture and see you together. Hello, friend.
Like you're feeling better?
Okay, our next group is from American Fork Junior High. If you want to come on in. And I'm going to read off the names. We got a few more names than people, but that's okay. So raise your hand when we call your name. Ava Jackson, Leo Lopez, Molly Otis, Cecily Patterson, Tate Macbeth, Tavely Roberts, Bree Kinsey Fisher, Morgan Thomas, and Sky Herzog. Okay, the next group is ATEC East. If they want to come on in. I have to tell you, I have a special place in my heart for the ATEC students, so I'm excited for them to be honored here. Okay, and our ATEC students are Ethan M. Sewell, Mary Fields, and Ryan Bishop. Okay, our next group is from Barrett Elementary. If they want to come on in. And if you want to go ahead and raise your hand when I call your name, we have Ariana Medina Fernandez, Asher Hayden, Darcy Roop, Emily Johnson, Isla Ryan, and Oscar Knutson. Elementary school principals are the best. They can always figure out what kids need. Our next group is from Dan Peterson. If you want to come on in. This is my other favorite place to be in the world. If you've never visited Dan Peterson, you've got to go there. It's a place of miracles.
Okay, so we have many of our students at Dan Peterson participated in the art that we have hanging here at the district office, but these are some of the students that came tonight. So we have Gabriel Brizuela, Porter Scow, Nora Klebaugh, Atsiri Diaz, and Eleanor Pugh.
Okay. Our next group is from Forbes Elementary. If they want to come on in for Forbes. If you want to raise your hand when I call your name. Ernie Sorensen, Eliza Lamborn, Hayden Larson, Kaylee Roberts, Mackenzie Adams, and Olivia Marsden. Okay, our next group are the students from Greenwood Elementary, if they'd like to come in. If you'd like to raise your hand when I call your name, we have Ava McMillan, Bennett Pinkston, Bowie Larson, Emery Goodman, Jagger Larson, Philippa Palmer, and Quinn Grace. Our next group is from Legacy Elementary. If they can come on in. And again, if you want to raise your hand when we call your name, we have Braylon Despain, James Thurgood, Luke Eaton, Nicholas R. Gonzalez, Penny Bringerhoff, Zlata Denisenko, Clara Roque. Rock. Got close. Nice job. Okay, our next group is from Polaris High, if they want to come on in. And these, the artwork was done by Chloe Cardova, Gabriela Gomez, Mason Bradford, and James Wiseman. And our last group is from Shelley Elementary, if they want to come on in. So if there are no students, you're welcome to do an interpretive dance if you'd like. So we'll deliver those, but let me just read the names. We have Amelia Durant, Annabelle Dance, B. Glodowski, Jeremy Akpoktu, Kai Tahi, Landon Jensen, Wilson Paskett, Yosemite Robertson. So thanks for your art. I think most people have already left, but if there are families here supporting these students, would you stand so we can give you a round of applause? And in case you're wondering, it's perfectly appropriate to leave now if you don't want to stay for the rest of it. I know, but these are the art people. The people who are not here for art recognitions have to stay, though. So get to stay. How's that?
We started doing these art, or having student art in the halls, 4 or 5 years ago? And I cannot tell you what a difference it makes to see the student art. And it's so beautiful and so promising, and it's so exciting to see what the kids come up with. So it's always nice to see the artists face to face and not just look at their pictures on the wall. We have another kind of award that we're going to do. It's called the Rise Award. And this is a unique award. We are thankful for so many teachers and staff members who really, really make a difference. Tonight, we'd like to recognize nominees who have been selected to receive the Rise Award, which is remarkable, inspiring, selfless, and encouraging. So the first one will be read by Bart Clement.
Great, and I believe that this person is not able to attend. Aiden Ballers, a teacher at Oak Canyon Junior High, and he was nominated by Joshua DeGroot, a student. And the student, Kate's here. So, okay. So you can go ahead and deliver that. Joshua wrote, "This teacher's amazing." Oh, stay up here, Kate. You don't get off that easy, I tell you. Joshua wrote, "This teacher's amazing at teaching. He explains things clearly and answers any questions we have. He is kind, loves his students, and wants them to learn. He even makes time to go to their extracurricular activities such as basketball games, plays, etc. He helps us not to be bored while he's teaching by making the occasional dad joke. And they're usually really funny. He's also the basketball coach, which makes him even more cool. And finally, his lessons are very well done." So thank you so much, Aiden.
Okay, the next nominee, or award winner, is Bailey Jarvis from Northridge. Bailey, please come up. And Bailey was nominated by Jessica Douglas, who is a parent. We'd like to invite the principal to come up, Kim Plank, supervisor. Jessica wrote, "Bailey has been such an asset to our son's growth. We were so lucky to have her this year and last year. My son has dyslexia, and she is here to support him in every way. She's even added posters to her room just for him about staying positive. For the first time, my son is now on grade level, and I know with her help, that is how we got there. She loves to share his successes with me when he won't, even if she has to race him to the car and pick up. My son gets so excited every day to be able to wake up and go to school and see her. She is absolutely the best." Bailey Jarvis.
Okay, our next awardee is Stephanie Nelson, a bus driver at Mountain Mahogany Elementary. Stephanie? And she's nominated by John Emmett, the principal. So,
Join the line.
and we have our transportation director, Joe Hayes, that is also an important part of this group. Mr. Emmett wrote, "A girl had her treasured stuffed animal thrown off the bus by a neighbor in the rain. Stephanie helped us resolve this with the two students and went back on her busy day to hunt for the stuffed animal. Our third grader was so relieved and grateful that we were able to present her with her lost treasure. Stephanie works late running special needs routes and has been so collaborative with our late route to make sure kids get home as soon as she can. She always makes it fun for the kids and tries to keep them motivated even though the kids need to wait for their bus."
We'd like to welcome Sherry Scher up, and also her principal, Nathan Webb, to come forward. She was nominated by Sydney Seeley, an employee. Sydney wrote, "If you can read this, thank a literacy specialist like Sherry Scher. In her 3 years at Deerfield, she has led the way in getting the students to proficient and beyond in reading. She's been especially instrumental in working with English learner students that are behind in reading at grade level. Sherry has also done an amazing job training her staff and collaborating with all the teachers. Students feel successful, and it shows in test scores and enthusiasm for this amazing reading program. Thank you, Sherry." Thanks for being here tonight. How are you? Thank you, ma'am. Thanks for being here tonight. Sherry, excellent job. Thank you.
Okay, we have a couple of really interesting, unusual awards tonight. We have 4 more that we're going to look at. So first of all, let's look at the My 529 Make Your Bookmark Contest. Okay, Sarah?
We want to invite the Freedom Elementary's Audrey Weston, Natalie Burnett, Judd Hughes, and Principal Melissa Allman, along with Margaret Hughes and Principal Derek Elson from Lake Ridge Junior High to come forward. And if you look on the screen there, you're going to see some unique bookmarks there. 8 students, Utah students, have won a $1,000 college savings scholarship in the 2023 Make Your Mark Bookmark Contest. The contest, sponsored by My 529 and the Utah Board of Higher Education, invited students throughout the state to create an original bookmark design. And Alpine School District had 4 students, and by the way, that's half, win this scholarship. Let's congratulate them. Audrey Weston is a second grader at Freedom Elementary, and she won in the K through 3 category. Natalie Burnett and Judd Hughes, both 5th graders of Freedom Elementary, were the winners in the 4th through 6th grade category. And Margaret Hughes, an 8th grade student at Lake Ridge Junior High, won in the 7th to 8th grade category. So congratulations to these talented students for their exceptional achievement.
Okay, now we'd like to invite Priscilla Prestes and Principal Kate Ross to come forward. Is Priscilla here? Great. We'd like to congratulate Priscilla Prestes, Portuguese teacher at Oak Canyon Junior High, as the recipient of the Southwest Conference on Language Teaching Excellence in Teaching Award for 2024. Jody Lindsay, ASD World Languages Specialist, said, Ms. Prestes is an inspiring and passionate educator who truly brings out the best in her students and colleagues. She's been an integral part of the Utah DLI Portuguese program since 2015, consistently demonstrating her excellent leadership and commitment to fostering unity among Portuguese teachers throughout the state. Her work has helped revive and grow the Portuguese language DLI programs.
Thank you, Kate.
Kept my finger under.
Next, we would invite Kim Nelson to come forward. And Kim, if you'd bring your wife with you, she's had to sit through I don't know how many baseball games, so she ought to get a little bit of recognition here. So. We also invite Dave Maurer, who is the school supervisor, to come forward. The administration at Timpanogos is either ill or supporting activities this evening. We have developed and minted a limited inaugural coin to recognize and inspire mindsets for continuous improvement within our educational community. These coins are awarded to individuals who epitomize the use of the ASD influence framework to inspire others in their work and in their personal life. This coin and engraved framework are a reminder of our why, inspiring excellence and fostering a sense of pride. Tonight we recognize Timpanogos educator and athletic coach Kim Nelson, who exemplifies the principles of this framework. In addition to celebrating his recent award as the National Federation of State High School Association's Baseball Coach of the Year, we want to recognize the impact he's had on Alpine School District for over 40 years. He inspires students to excel in the field and in their personal life. Timpanogos Athletic Director Frank Bramall says, "The culture Nelson has created at Timpanogos should be replicated everywhere. He truly cares about every athlete he coaches and every student he teaches." Kim, this coin is a reminder and a challenge for you to remember your lasting influence and that will inspire generations. We know the impact of your influence will endure. And now I'm going to go off script a little bit and just say, Kim, you're a legend in Alpine School District. I don't know how many thousands of young men, students you have inspired, state championships that you've won, inspired the students to just pursue excellence. The standard that you set is remarkable. Thank you for your work. You'll notice on that coin, we have significant influence and pursue excellence when we have a clear why. When we fine-tune that focus and we put routines in place and then harness the hearts. And I think you exemplify that influence. You have done that with your teams over the years, with your students. You have a clear why behind your coaching. You have a clear focus as well. You fine-tune that. It's about the students and their well-being, and then you put in routines to take the talent you're given and just bring it up a notch to win state championships. That's remarkable. Thank you for your influence in Alpine School District, over 40 years of teaching and many state champions, and congratulations on being an influencer.
We would also like to extend congratulations to Westlake High School. They are the 2023-2024 UHSAA 6A State Co-ed Cheer Champions. We have award certificates that have been sent to the school to be given to the student athletes during their recognition ceremony. Go Thunder!
It's always an honor to have these recognitions and to see the quality of the teaching and the students in Alpine School District. We have time now for community comments. We have 5 people that have signed up. We have a few minutes set aside. A sign-up sheet was available, and those living outside of ASD and those who are unable to sign up before all slots were full can submit written comments at alpineschooldistrict.org/school board, or scanning the QR code in the lobby will also direct you to the form. As you're called up, please introduce yourself by stating your name. You will be given up to 3 minutes to speak. While the board does not engage in a discussion during the public comment period, they may arrange for a staff member to communicate with you later. Personnel issues are not appropriate discussion items for an open meeting environment. If you have a personnel concern, please contact a member of the administration or put your concerns in writing and address it to the Board of Education. So the first 2 people, Anne-Marie Gunther and Amy Thomas. Anne-Marie, come on up.
Thank you for allowing a few minutes to share some of our thoughts. I live in Highland. My son is in kindergarten at Highland Elementary, and I have triplets that will be entering Highland Elementary in 2025. So I have been involved at various levels with government and education, and recently learned, I had understood that last year in the 2023 legislative session, HB 477 was passed, which allowed for, or I should say mandated, that all schools offer full-day kindergarten. And I am here asking that in addition to that, that we still continue to offer dedicated half-day kindergarten option. I know it's not my motive, nor is it legal to say, let's just continue doing half-day, it's working. I understand that many parents do want a full-day option, and that is right for them. But I am asking that we continue to offer dedicated half-day classes to those parents who don't feel their 5-year-old children are ready or that they want them to be in a full-day class. I understand that the decision was made that all schools would go full day with the option for parents to pick them up at lunchtime or bring them at lunchtime. And it's my feeling, and many other parents that I've spoken to, that that's not a viable option. You're forcing parents to choose, which isn't putting students or students or the teachers in a fair position to have to choose core or specialty. I believe that there are several teachers that are already teaching half-day kindergarten that are excellent, and I think that they would be thrilled for the opportunity to continue a dedicated half-day program rather than being forced to teach full-day or retire. And my suggestion is that instead of just mandating it, that we actually get data from the parents. I am a fairly involved parent, and I just found out that it was going to be I knew it was eventually going to be full-time, but I didn't understand that every school in the district was going to mandate the full day this coming year in 2024. And as a fairly educated and involved parent, I imagine that many other parents don't know that that's the direction we're going. Therefore, I don't know if you have the proper feedback from parents to understand how many actually do want this option to keep a dedicated half-day approach. So what I would ask is that at each of the schools, that you communicate through either the principal or through the district, whatever, but communicate and get actual feedback and actual numbers from the parents. And if there are enough parents that want it, I would ask that we have a dedicated half-day. So thank you.
Thank you, Anne-Marie. Okay, next is Amy Thomas, followed by Laurel Shelley.
Thank you for taking some time to listen to my comments. My name is Amy Thomas. I live in Highland. I have 5 children, 4 of which have attended schools here, from Legacy Elementary to American Fork Junior High, the high school. My 5th child is scheduled to start kindergarten in this August. I am here, like Anne Marie, asking the district to please consider continuing to offer a dedicated half-day kindergarten class. As I look back over my other 4 children, I would not have chosen full-day kindergarten for any of them. They weren't ready. As a mom, I'm sorry, I don't mean to be emotional. As a mom, I cherish the time I have at home with my children, and I value the time that they spend in unstructured, independent play. I love watching my little 4-year-old come home from preschool and getting lost in his work, which is play. He'll play for hours building. And I don't want to take away that extra year by sending him to full-day kindergarten. And as Anne-Marie said, I don't feel like checking my child out at lunchtime is really a fair option for half day. It's not fair to him or to the teachers. And I really, truly believe that there are many parents and teachers who still want a dedicated half-day kindergarten option. It's what I believe. And as I've talked to other parents, I've felt saddened that they feel like their voice wouldn't matter if they stood up and shared that feeling. So that's another reason why I'm here, is to be a voice for those who didn't have the courage to express their feelings and their concerns about sending their child to kindergarten full day when they don't feel like they're ready, and when they want that extra year with their child home with them. Thank you.
Okay, Laurel Shelley, followed by Sierra Woods.
Hello, my name is Laurel Shelley. I taught at American Fork High School for 32 years, and back when I was teaching, I found myself more and more frustrated through time, and I sat down one day and figured out, why is it that I'm so frustrated? I couldn't feel like I could get through my curriculum and do the things that I wanted to do in my classroom. I ended up cutting entire units out of my curriculum. And so I sat down one day and I figured it out. I presented this to my administration many years ago. And then I've been thinking about this still, and so I thought I would present it to you. I appreciate all of the work that you guys do, and I just thought I'd give you some food for thought today. So here it goes. When I was in high school, my AP literature teacher and every other teacher that I had 550 minutes every 2 weeks to teach me my curriculum. When we went to the eight period block, which was before I started teaching, by the way, it took it down to 425 minutes. But as we have added flex time and early out Mondays and other things, as we've just kind of chipped off a little time and given a little extra passing time or a little extra lunch or whatever, we are now down to 363 minutes of teaching time every 2 weeks. So from the time my teacher had down to now, we're minus 187 minutes every 2 weeks of face-to-face teaching time. That's 3,336 minutes per year, which equals 55.6 hours of cut time. So you can see where my frustration was coming from. I just had to sit down and figure it out. The AP curriculum hasn't changed as far as what needs to be taught. And more importantly, regular and struggling students need more time. They need more time with their teacher. They need more face-to-face time. They need the time for the curriculum. They need the time for the relationships. And we've gone to this guaranteed viable curriculum, which in my book is minimal. It's one of the bad things, I think, that came out of No Child Left Behind. And so we've gone to teaching the core. We are always talking about teaching the core. Well, I would like to propose that we give time to teach the apple. That's what kids enjoy, is the apple. I don't want to eat the core. Do you want to eat the core? I want to eat the apple. Now, I understand the core is important because that's where the seeds come from. But we need to go back to teaching the apple and giving kids time. I had to cut some of the fun things that I did, some of the extensions that I did, that kids really got interested in. And I will tell you, since we've added all the testing and cut down to the core, kids are enjoying school much less. So I encourage you to think about that as you continue to think about it. And that, by the way, that does not include the time you take teachers out for team time or conferences or other things like that. So it's a lot of time. It matters.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Let's see. We down to Rebecca Spencer? Sierra Woods.
Hi.
And then Rebecca.
I'm not good at public speaking, but I'm going to do my best. I'm kind of piggybacking off of the kindergarten situation. I have 3 kids. I was born and raised in Orem, and then I ended up moving to Vegas with my spouse because he had 4 kids from a previous marriage. And so when my older 2 started kindergarten, they did full day. It was very rough for them, but that was just how it was. At charter schools, at public schools out there, that's how it was. And we just kind of had to deal with it. And so when I was blessed to be able to move back here to Utah, I was very excited about the opportunity for my son to be able to do half-day kindergarten. He is different than my other 2, whereas he has high anxiety. And so the idea that I would have to pull him half the day if I chose to keep him half a day home, like to want to bring him home at lunch, meaning the first half of the day is academics and the second half is the crafting and the mind play and all that stuff is disappointing to me because he has a beautiful mind when it comes to art and all of that other part of education and learning. I am so grateful for the program that he is in right now, which is Talking Time, which is speech therapy. He goes to Cedar Ridge for that, but I live in American Fork, so he's in the Legacy Boundaries. And the Talking Time program is amazing, but even being there for an hour, because it's an hour once a week, and as I watch these kids' attention spans, alter from the education to the craft part. I feel like for just a short amount of time, we can get these kids to learn and to benefit from education and learning rather than it being an entire day mixed in with all of that. So I'm not going to take up the whole time because I'm just passionate about the idea of being able to have him have the opportunity to ease into school for the rest of his life, whatever he decides to do. He's a beautiful person, he's a beautiful mind, and I'm excited to see where he goes, but I also love and will miss him, and I was looking forward to the easing process into it. So thank you guys for your time. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Sarah. Sarah.
Hi, my name's Rebecca Spencer, and I'm grateful to be here. I know you all, and I know I could have spoken individually, but I wanted tonight to talk to everyone a little bit about inclusion. I've seen some absolutely amazing experiences with inclusion during our years in special education here in the district, particularly at Highland Elementary. I know you all know my feelings there, so at last Thursday night, I went to a unified sports basketball game at Lone Peak High School. And we pulled into the parking lot, and I started to cry. My husband thought I was crazy. There were so many cars. You guys, there were so many cars there. And I walked in, and the stands were crowded. We were on time and had a hard time finding a seat. And the varsity teams were there, and I kind of held it together until the varsity coaches started talking about inclusion and their love for the special ed life skills students. And then I ugly cried, and everyone thought I was weird. It was amazing, and it's what our world should look like. We've had a number of other experiences with the district, and that's a rabbit hole I don't care to jump down. But tonight I think I need to talk a little bit about it. My son is in junior high. He's never had a BIP or a behavior write-up, but it sure feels like he's on a sovereign island. It's a lovely island. I've got an amazing teacher. The peer mentors who come in and out are so good. He's in music class, but it's for SPED only. He goes to AP in the gym, it's SPED only. But he spends all day in a classroom without windows, except for lunch. and he has no inclusion. And so last October, I started talking about this. Gosh, I didn't think I'd be such a mess. I started talking about this, and because I'm a little over the top, I looked at our state resources and what our state has put out on meaningful inclusion. I read the latest research from our latest academics on meaningful inclusion. I met with someone from state UAT office. We had a long IEP where we really drafted out what this would look like, specific accommodations for my child with a start date in January. Over the Christmas break, I screenshotted his schedule. I was really excited because he was in science and English. I was really surprised a couple weeks ago to go in and look at the schedule and discover that someone deleted science and English off his schedule. It wasn't the teacher. I don't believe it was malicious, and I actually don't really care. But I think someone looked and thought, oh, this must be a mistake. This child doesn't belong. And I don't know how to describe the devastation from years of advocating and what that felt like. I wasn't even going to come back. Oh, shoot, I'm out of time. I have a little more. I wasn't going to come back. I thought I'm done. But I'm here, and I'm here for the long haul because inclusion benefits everyone. It's not just the law. It's morally right. Highland Elementary, when the general ed students were fighting to keep our kids with them, they wrote, "You help us remember to be kind." The law requires that to the maximum extent appropriate, children with disabilities are educated with children who are not disabled. Students are required by law to have meaningful access, not access, meaningful access to same-age peers without disabilities when appropriate. Our congressional findings regarding IDEA states that implementation of IDEA has been impeded by low expectations, and I'm quoting, "Almost 30 years of research and experience has demonstrated that the education of children with disabilities can be made more effective by having high expectations for such children and ensuring their access to the general education curriculum in the regular classroom to the maximum extent possible. In order to meet developmental goals and to the maximum extent possible, the challenging expectations that have been established for all children." I'm not talking art. I'm saying, can you stretch my child too? Because he's capable. So I'm requesting that meaningful inclusion becomes a priority in our general education culture. Part of the problem is SPED kind of feels like its own island. When inclusion works, it works because your general ed admin, teachers, and staff are all in. They're the ones that have to have the vision. They're the ones who know what's out and what's available and who have the places and the spaces for my child. Best practices in inclusion around the country include having an inclusion specialist. This is a liaison between the two worlds of SPED and general ed. This is not a new hire. I'm not looking for funding, but maybe a secretary in elementary schools or counselors at secondary levels could act as a liaison so they could work with all the things to just see that there's a place for my child too, because I'm fighting hard for him and I'm frankly tired, and that's okay because he's amazing and it's an amazing place and we have amazing teachers and schools, but we can do a little better if we all come together and recognize that everyone belongs. Thank you.
Thank you, Rebecca. Okay, now we're going to move to the business portion of our meeting. We need approval of the minutes. I need a motion to approve.
I move that we approve the minutes.
Second the motion.
Okay, it's been moved by Ada and seconded by Mark. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed say nay. Okay, the motion carries. Dr. Farnsworth.
Thank you, President Hecken. Board members, you have received your routine business for the month as outlined in your agenda, and I recommend you accept the routine business.
Thank you. Do I have a motion to accept routine business?
I move that we accept the routine business.
And a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, it's been moved by Stacy and seconded by Sarah to approve the routine business. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed say nay. Okay, the motion carries.
Also recommend that you approve the claims for the month.
Okay. All right.
I move that we approve the claims for this month.
Okay, do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, it's been moved by Sarah and seconded by Ada that we approve the claims. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed say nay. Okay, motion passes. All right.
Can I just make
action.
one comment?
Yes, you can.
This is the time of year when we get the list of those who are retiring from our schools. And to me, this is a deeply emotional experience to go down this list that's part of our routine business. And I just want to say it is not routine when we're saying goodbye to so many great educators. And I just want to acknowledge that. Thank you.
Thank you, Ada.
Thank you. We have 5 action items. The first 4 are policies. So invite Craig Brinkerhoff to come forward, Executive Director of Legal Services for Alpine School District. The first 3 policies, we recommend a retirement of the policy. Appreciate the policy committee and the work that they do to review policies and make sure that those policies are up to date and necessary. The first policy that we recommend retirement of is policy 4753, employee compensation insurance. We're not retiring the insurance, we're retiring the policy associated with that.
That is correct. So our employee compensation insurance still remains intact, but this particular policy goes beyond the employee compensation. Specifically what it does, I'm sure you guys have read it, but it allows for if somebody were to fall or something like that, of that nature, and they were to tear their shirt or something, it would reimburse them for that shirt. So this policy is short and sweet. It's just that one paragraph. We didn't see it as being necessary to be in policy. We also addressed this with this policy is specific to our administrators. We talked with the Administrative Association, and they were also comfortable with retiring in this policy.
Okay, thank you. Do we have a motion to retire?
I move that we retire policy 4753, employee compensation insurance.
And a second?
I'll second it.
Is there any discussion about this policy? Okay, seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed say nay. Okay, motion carries. Next.
Next is the retirement of policy 4760, the statute of limitations with regarding payroll.
This policy also is an administrative policy only. This does not apply to certified or classified. They have their own policy on this. We again did discuss this with the Administrative Association, and what we've done with this particular policy has been moved to the HR handbook. So the language was kept, it was moved into the HR handbook and organized in a different fashion other than policy.
Okay, do I have a motion to retire policy 4760?
I move that we retire policy 4760.
I'll second it.
Okay, it's been moved by Mark and seconded by Julie. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed say nay. Okay, motion carries.
Thank you. The next policy is policy 9090, non-interested directly or indirectly in contracts. Not sure what that means, but Craig Brinkerhoff, I'm sure you'll explain that to us.
Yes, so this policy deals with conflicts of interest when it comes to entering into contracts. So the Board of Education cannot have any conflicts of interest in the contracts that they enter into or that school district enters into. This policy we're suggesting be retired because it is in the board handbook. And so this was duplicative where this is already in the board's handbook that exists. This is also discussed in code, in state code, and so we didn't think that it warranted having its own policy because it still is in effect without the policy.
Okay, do I have a motion to retire policy 9090?
I move that we retire policy 9090.
And a second?
I'll second.
Okay, it's been moved by Ada and seconded by Stacy. Is there any discussion? We talked about this in policy meeting today, and we agreed with the superintendent. It's kind of an odd title, that didn't really indicate to us what the policy was all about. All in favor of retiring this policy, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Okay, the motion carries.
Thank you. The next policy is 4409, workers' compensation, and we recommend the renewal of that policy.
This policy we updated so that it was gender neutral. We did miss one section that we will correct, but it used to say workman's compensation, and that's no longer correct, and so we've corrected it to say workers' compensation, and then we've taken the pronouns and made them gender neutral, with the exception that we missed one in 1.5, and we will correct that.
Okay, do we have a motion to renew policy 4409?
So I'm going to make the motion, but I'm going to include the correction just because it didn't make it into board docs before the 24-hour period. So I move that we renew policy 4409 in 1.5, changing the his to their.
I'll second.
Thank you. Okay, it's been moved by Julie and seconded by Stacy. Any other comments about this one? Okay, seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed say nay. Okay, motion carries.
Thank you. The last action item is a recommended change to the meeting time of our March 12th board meeting. As was shared this morning in superintendent's meeting with 3 board members, and in the minutes that were kept from that meeting, MGT, who is doing our reconfiguration study, will be on site March 11th through the 15th. We plan to have an evening town hall meeting for our patrons on March 12th. Consequently, we would like to, or requesting to move the board meeting to 4 o'clock that afternoon, not have a study session, but have the board meeting begin on March 12th at 4 o'clock instead of 6 o'clock, and we'd recommend your approval of that change.
Okay, do I have a motion to change the March 12th board meeting to 4 o'clock?
I move that we change the March 12th board meeting to 4 o'clock.
I'll second it.
Okay, it's been moved by Stacy and seconded by Sarah. Any discussion about that? Okay, seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed say nay. Okay, the motion carries. We will be meeting at 4 o'clock on March 12th.
Okay, we have a couple reports here. The first one is Alpine by the numbers, our Acadience data. And so we invite Scott Sumner and Jason Croton to come forward. And we're excited for the data. This is something we started a couple months ago to kind of highlight some data in Alpine School District.
Thank you, Superintendent and Board of Education. We're excited to be here. A couple months ago, we had the opportunity to come in and share some secondary data. We talked about graduation numbers. Today with Jason Croton, he is our Director of K through 6 and many other things. Is that fair? Jason is an expert in his field, and he was highly sought after to be able to be in this position, to be able to help support the work K through 6. The interesting part about Jason is we get a lot of data. There's a lot of data that comes at us, and it's to be able to digest it and be able to look at it and analyze it and interpret it and then share it. It takes quite a bit of time and some expertise to go through. Jason is an expert in that field to be able to look at it and give input to our supervisors and our schools to be able to help move that work forward. In fact, many of the cases, he's also into our secondary schools by some of the work with our curriculum teams that are working towards some specific projects because of his expertise. And so just appreciate him, and I'm going to turn some time over to him to go over some Acadience and some kindergarten data to share that we've surfaced, and we're excited to discuss.
Thanks. Thank you so much, Superintendent, Board. It's great to be here. We want to go over Acadience reading and math for this year to see where we're at and what would we expect. Are we on the right track? Acadience reading, just an overview real quick. It's a screener. It's a quick assessment that will identify students who may be at risk for reading difficulties. So with that overview, just a couple of numbers so you can see the big task to assess all of our students. So you can see we have a beginning, middle, and end of year window. And we have a tester team of 90 testers. We train them, we make sure that they know how to score correctly, so we have that reliability. And those testers go out K6 and test our students. Beginning of year, we tested over 42,000 students in 18 days. And we do that with reading and with math. And so those are just some of the numbers there. And so let's go to looking at performance for beginning of year. We have some LEA data. And as we looked at LEAs, we looked at LEAs that geographically are close and that have an N size more than 10,000. In our state, we have more than 120, I think 27 LEAs in our state, because a charter school would count as an LEA. And so we narrowed it down to LEAs that have an N size of close to us. And you can see that with our K6 data, our proficient students beginning of year was 70% proficient. And then you can see how we're doing with comparing to other LEAs in our state. The state data is 63% proficient K6. So that gives us kind of an overview of kind of where we're at. And something that we talk about with any type of data, I think it's easy to look at kids that get it, and then we're like, oh, I guess we have kids that don't get it at all. And that's not the case. If you look at just the breakdown of percentages for benchmark levels, you can see that we have our above and at students, but students that are below and well below, they have skills. They're getting it. They're just not doing it as quickly or fluently yet. And so I think it's good to recognize that we are making progress with some of our other students, and it's good to recognize that those students that may not be proficient, they're still getting there. Looking at our K6 proficiency, so you'll see a table there on the screen. We have in each box, each grade level, the beginning and middle of year score, and then the state data. If you look across the state, those state averages, we are above the state averages. And as we look at data throughout the years, a lot of it is very similar. We trend similar in a lot of grades. But you'll notice that kindergarten has increased quite a bit across the state and in our district. And so we will talk about kindergarten, I think, in the next, couple slides to see some of that data. When we start to analyze the Acadience data, we want to know, is this like the norm? Would we expect these results? Acadience is a normed assessment, so Acadience has millions of scores. They can predict where students usually trend. So if looking at that slide, let's go to that first box. This is a correlation report from beginning to middle. So it looks at students where they started and then where they went for middle. So that first box, you can see there's 21,425 students that were above benchmark, okay? In the graph right below, you'll see where the students went for middle of year. So 17,000 and change, they stayed blue, and then you can see how they kind of went down. According to the research, so in the box below, the research from Acadience says that a student that falls above benchmark, 90 to 99% should stay there. And in our district, you can see in that blue box that 96% of our students stayed. So we're falling within that norm of what you would expect with our Acadience data. So let's go down the other boxes. So let's look at that green box. That's at benchmark. Our students, we have 7,436 students that achieved at benchmark. And according to the research in that box below, it says the likelihood that those students will hit subsequent goals is 70 to 85% of those students. So in our district, 72% of our students are maintaining that. So we look at those numbers, we're thinking, okay, we're following the trend of what data looks nationwide. looking at the last two boxes, you can see our below and well below students. And on those cuts, it looks like we're just a little bit low than what you would expect. You can see that below benchmark, the likelihood of achieving those subsequent goals is 40 to 60%. And our district right now, our students are at 36% that met benchmark at middle of year. And then you can see in that well below box. Middle of year testing is kind of a check. We tested in September, then we taught October, November, and then we tested again in December. We see the most gains from December on to the end of the year. So we will run the same report, and we usually see this increase. And looking historically at our data, we follow these trends that we would expect with Acadians reading. So we talked about, with Acadians reading, there's a proficiency measure and there's a growth measure. Each student gets a growth indicator if they are achieving the growth that you would expect. Middle of year, you get like a checkpoint. So looking at our data, you can see historically in those boxes where we're at, middle of year. And I highlighted from last year our end of year growth. We make great gains from middle to end of year. What you would hope to expect is at least 60% or better on that growth indicator in red. And so for end of year, that's what we would expect, that every grade level is at least 60% or better. Any questions so far about any of that? Yeah.
You opened it up to questions, which is probably a bad thing, Jason. So would you go back to the last slide, please?
Yeah.
So I'm just curious, when we're looking at this data, I'm wondering, do we break it down into different demographics? Because, like, for example, for some of our students in yellow and red, how much of this is actually a reading struggle, and how much of this is maybe a lack of language acquisition? And I'm specifically referencing, like, for example, our multi-language learners who, you know, maybe don't speak English, and so it's not that they're, you know, that there's a language issue, and that once that is addressed and the students become fluent in the language, then the reading fluency follows. Do you know, like, have we watched about how much the red and the yellow are impacted by students who are acquiring English as a second language?
Yes, that's a great question. Yes, they are impacted, especially if they are first, second year multilingual learners. Over time, as they are acquiring those skills and they, on their WIDA assessment, they get into those levels 3 and above, then you see them making those gains. And so they are accounted for in the data, and that's why with the research, like those students that fall in that red level, only 10 to 20% hit the next goal, but over time, then they hit those goals, if that makes sense. Yeah. We reference kindergarten. That was kind of the outlier. Like when we look at our data, like I mentioned, we see a lot of similar trends over the years. This year we saw a big jump in kinder. So we decided, let's disaggregate full day kinder from half day to see, is that making an impact? So take a look at that box in the middle that we've highlighted. That's our full day kindergarten classes. And you can see that they have exceptional proficiency and growth compared to the half-day model that's happening right now. The thought that is, if we can get our kinder, our foundation, solid, as they go into first grade with that solid foundation higher, we should see this start to domino into our other grades. We were very excited about this data just to see how our students are doing. I think we have full day kinder at 29 of our schools right now. And so this is making a huge impact on our overall data. Any questions about the kinder data?
I don't have a question, just kind of a comment. One of my schools is a little bit of an anomaly because Pony Express is a little bit different because they have those 2 OEK, like they're still half-day kindergarten, but then they have 2 OEK classes on this older model. And I'll have to say, I sat in an SCC meeting where the principal was sharing information about what it looked like And it was fascinating because it's essentially the same demographics. It's the kids who go to the same school. It's just, we've got our kids who are on the lowest end accessing OEK. And seeing the growth in those students who are in that full day OEK model was staggering. And just looking at the data was a very telling story. And it seems like that is something that's being spread across the district and I assume across the state. But I will say that just from that one school dynamic, which is, like I said, a little bit of an anomaly because they have those 2 full day versus the rest half day, the differences were shocking and very telling about the investment that the legislature and then I think boards are making in making sure that early literacy is a focus.
Right. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. What we want to recognize is our teachers. They are doing exceptional work. There are students behind these numbers. And our teachers check in on our students weekly with their reading and numeracy skills. You can see the table there of kind of like the recommendations where our teachers are checking in. And we do have some data to show that our teachers are progress monitoring, which means they're pulling a student, they're sitting with a student one-on-one, and they're checking on their reading skills. We're close to 300,000 events, instances of progress monitors across the district already, where we are checking our students weekly. I think that is a tribute to our teachers and our teams of the work that they're doing and focusing very heavily on literacy skills.
And I think it's important to point out that monitoring is not just pushing kids along, but targeting their specific needs that may not be addressed without that monitoring. Am I correct?
Yes, that's correct. Yeah, we're deliberately targeting the skill that the student needs and then checking in on that progress. And so when we hit middle of year and end of year, it's not a surprise of where we're at. We are tracking data more than ever across the schools, and I think that that's just exceptional from our elementary schools. Let's look at Acadian's Math. Acadian's Math, we know, is a new assessment. Similar to reading, it's a quick assessment to check numeracy skills. Is a student at risk for obtaining those numeracy skills? Same thing, we have testers that test our students. We also have a portion that the teachers do in the classroom, where it's a whole group kind of activity where it takes about 10 to 15 minutes and they give them a worksheet to do the test. LEA data from beginning of year, from LEAs around us, and with an N size that's close to what we have. So you can see there that we are 58% proficient, and statewide is 49% proficient beginning of year. Same type of conversation that we like to highlight with the data. The students that aren't achieving it, it's not like they don't have the skills. They just aren't doing it in the time allotted on the test. They're not doing it fluently yet. And so that's where we're working with students to make them more fluent with their numeracy skills.
Jason?
Yes.
Like, how do you know that? Because they are allowed to complete the test? I mean, how do you know that?
So the test, most of them are like a 1 minute type of assessment. And so there's the time component. And so within that time, it's like our reading. You can tell if students can do that or not. And then in between, there are progress monitors as well, where the kids can practice those types of skills. And so the teachers are working with students to be able to practice the skills that they will see on the actual assessment.
So they're observing that
Yes.
they can complete the work, but
Yep,
just not
but
in
just
the time.
not within the time frame. Yeah.
Okay.
Something to highlight, so this is historical data, and I just want to highlight the middle of year where we're at now. If you look from 2021 to 2022, let's take first grade, we were 47% proficient. We are now 55% proficient first grade, middle of year. And if you're looking at all the grades we're assessing right now, we are up in math. We have seen schools shift their focus and have literacy and math as a focus, and they're starting to look at these numeracy skills. Our math data is quite high, and we run the same correlation report. We want to see our students trending how they should according to the research. So the same boxes. So if we look at that first one, 7,800 students were blue. You can see where they went on those graphs. 92% are staying proficient. It's falling within that research, within that range. If you trickle down, you start looking at the green, and that's 61%, and it looks like the norm data would suggest that it should be around 70 to 85. So I think there's a little bit of work there to retain some of those students that are getting it, but they might be on that cusp of, not getting it quite in the time allotment of the assessment. And then you can see the other cuts. Similar to reading, we're on that lower end, but we will run this end of year. That's where we see the most type of growth. This is kind of our check. End of year would be the final analysis with this data. The last portion here is the growth for Acadians Math. This is quite exciting. We are already hitting 60% or better growth across every grade. If you look historically, especially in second grade, we have not been close with that growth. And this year, we've already hit the cut of where we would want to be for end of year. So as we maintain and get better, our math scores are looking fantastic. So great support from our curriculum department, our math team that's helping support schools. So we're very excited about the numeracy data and the literacy data. Like it looks fantastic this year. Any questions you have for me?
Can you go back to the very beginning
Yeah.
slide? Just start all over. Just kidding. I just wanted to make sure I was understanding. Let's see. Okay,
one?
second. Yeah, that one.
Yeah.
So I'm noticing at the beginning of the year, you have 42,221 students taking the test, right?
Yeah.
And then by mid-year, you have 42,397 students taking the test. Is that because we're testing after school has started, right?
Yeah.
So is this because of move-ins, because students have come in? Is that what that number is?
These are our
Okay.
tested numbers. We tested 99% of our population. So 1% of our population was absent, not there the entire window. The state mandate is 95% of our population, and we get almost every single student.
Our elementaries have grown by 234 total students since October 1st, so that correlates to where.
Yep. Oh, yeah. So Scott was asking about the testers and the importance of that. Our district, along with other districts, have a testing team. It's being able to train that group of people to test them, to test our students, and train the same way, the same scoring. So it's not different across all the schools has been very important. So our team trains those testers. They come in. We do multi-day trainings to make sure they are ready to assess, and they pass off the assessments with us to make sure that they are scoring correctly, accurately, and so it's valid data across the district. With those 90 testers, then we deploy them each day, schedule them each day to go assess across the district. I have a fantastic team that does this, that schedules everyone and makes sure that testing happens and we get it done and we get the data to the schools in a timely manner. If you look at that number, 42,000 students in 18 days is phenomenal. And so we do have a lot of testers that live within our district that's doing that for us and have been with us for about 5 or 6 years.
So the other follow-up question with that is, if you have a student that's, let's say, sick and absent and they're not able to test, does the state allow them to test? Because how are we going to see if they're proficient or they're looking at their growth if they're not testing? Do they allow them to do that then?
Yeah, so it's a good question. The window's a month, and so hopefully we get that student within the month. If the student is at home sick for an extended time, we can do remote testing.
Oh, good.
And we've
Okay.
done that virtually. We have a tester specifically that can do remote
Thank you.
testing.
Thank you.
I had a question about the math.
Yeah.
Can you skip ahead to this same graph on the math?
Yeah.
Okay, so on the reading, there was 42,000. The math is only 18,000.
Yeah.
Why is there such a big difference? Can you kind of describe that to us?
We only do Acadians math first through third grade.
Acadians math
Yeah.
first to third.
Next
and
year,
K's readings.
next year we'll bring on
Got it.
kindergarten.
Thank you.
So we'll
All
do
right.
K3 next year, and that's part of the state, the board decision at the state that kindergarten will do Acadians math next year.
I just have a comment. I mean, we've had one of our commenters had expressed concern about loss of teaching time.
Yeah.
But I note that each of these takes a matter of minutes per student.
Yeah.
Which is, I think, really good.
Yeah, having a tester team instead of teachers doing it relieves that off the teacher to have to figure out how do I test my students one-on-one. Our tester team will come in and can do an entire class in about 10 minutes. So they go to the library, 10 minutes, they test, we're done, and we have that data.
So just wanted to point out something. Jason, you said something that really resonated with me when you talked about students may not be fluent or as going as quickly as we need to do them, but then you said yet. Yeah. And I really appreciate that attitude, that power of yet, because one of our focuses is that we want to make sure that we're allowing high levels of learning for all students, right, and making sure that some of that is just a yet. They just haven't gotten it yet. So I appreciate that you specifically said that, because I think that's a powerful statement about our focus in Alpine School District. So I appreciate that comment. One of the things that I've seen as I've gone to some of my school community councils and they've looked at data. One of the things that has stood out is the testing schedule. Like you mentioned, there's a month window, right? So yeah, one of the challenges I sometimes see is that, last year we were at the beginning of the window, but then we're now at the tail end of the window and we got a month's worth more of instruction in before we got tested. So sometimes it looks like a little bit of an advantage depending on when your testing was. Are we trying to keep that consistent year to year with schools, as far as if you were in the beginning of the year this year, you will also be beginning next year? Because I know some also compare beginning or middle of year from year to kind of see what are we seeing trends happening? Right. So I'm just curious, is that something that we're intentional about as far as kind of respecting that window? Or do we say, hey, we want to give everybody a little bit of a fair shot, so we're going to rotate who gets kind of that extra month of instruction?
Great question. We do try to keep the same schedule. When Acadian started, the testing happened within the entire month, and it was quite random. We've condensed K3 testing to, it's really 8 days we test. And so we do that very quickly. So the data is tight and compact, and so schools could learn from other schools because it is so close together. And then we do the 4-6 in the same way. So we are very intentional with how we schedule.
I have a summary question. Do you have more slides that you need to go through? I sense last time you came, there wasn't as much enthusiasm in your voice about where our testing was. We were trending better in language arts, but we weren't hitting where we needed to be in math. Am I correct in my assessment that you're a little bit more pleased with where we're headed with respect to our math scores?
Yes, absolutely. When we got the data, our math team started cheering over there at the PDC because
we heard a rumbling and didn't know quite what was going on,
But yes, I mean, it looks fantastic, and it's good to see schools that have a literacy and a numeracy goal, that we are chasing both. And so, yes.
Yeah, and I'm pleased to see that, kind of that strategic plan moving forward of schools identifying priorities based upon evidence, setting goals. We don't determine their goals. We kind of do, because we tell them we're going to measure on this area, but they're hitting those. We're seeing improvement across the board, and schools learning from schools. So thank you for your work. I'm glad you're a little bit more enthusiastic about where the scores are. I mean, we noticed that last year, that we're not where we want to be, and I don't think we're still where we want to be, but we're heading in that direction of where we want to go, and I think that's important as we continue to improve. And as you mentioned, as grade levels get better, those are some stackable credentials, so to speak, that as grade levels learn at higher levels, then the teachers can take them where they're at and move them even further as we progress along the continuum. So thank you for the report and the great work.
Thank you.
Oh, we had another question. You're not done yet.
No, not a question. I just had a comment. A couple months ago, Joylyn and I went to visit the curriculum folks and their teams and the TSAs. And what was fascinating to me while we were in there watching them was to watch literacy folks get excited about numeracy, and numeracy folks to have that same thing. And I think we have this massive support team in the middle that maybe doesn't get a lot of recognition for what they do to support, and also the changes with the professional learning hour. And so I think that team, in conjunction with our teachers who have gone through letters and putting those things into practice, just wanted to thank them for all of their efforts and the role that they play in this progress.
Thank you.
Last report is the membership report for the month. You've received that in your information. Just call out a few things. Since October 1, we're up 234 students in elementary, up 72 in middle school, and down 343 in our high schools. Those trends are typical. As we see students that graduate early and move on in our high schools, we generally see a little bit of decline. Vista Heights has grown by 30 students since the beginning of the year, and then we have probably 5 or 6 elementary schools that have grown a net of 20 to 25 students, none over 30. So we're about where we were anticipated with projections. So that's my report on membership.
Okay, thank you. All right, we have time now for board member or superintendent reports. So any board member that would like to report on a recent activity or committee, now is your chance.
I just want to make a comment. We've heard a lot about full-day kindergarten today, and I know that we've had discussions about this as a board. And I don't know if Superintendent Farnsworth, you want to kind of summarize the options that parents already have as far as options to full-day kindergarten. And maybe we just need some consistent communication about this so that parents know that they do have options and that they can work with their principals about the needs of their individual children. So.
Thank you, Board Member Wilson. Yes, we're excited for the opportunity to offer full-day kindergarten across the district. As parents have needs that that offering is not best suited for them, we encourage them to meet with their principal, work out some possible considerations, alterations to that, and then let their principal know so he can or she can keep track of kind of what that request is for a dedicated half day, and we'll continue to study that. But we're moving forward with full-day kindergarten across the district. I think the data shows that it is a significant benefit to student learning, and we're committed to that.
Yes, I think the data is unmistakable as far as student learning, but having been the parent of a child who I knew was not ready for kindergarten, I personally made the choice to hold them back a year. There are options for those children that just are not ready or mature, and their parents do know and recognize this. But be aware that you can work with your principal, with your teacher, to meet the needs of your child.
Yeah. Thank you.
I wanted to share an experience I had yesterday. I was very fortunate to be able to participate in a PLC with the elementary librarians across the district yesterday, and just absolutely blown away by the caliber of people that we have working in Alpine School District. We were going over some basic data, and it was just one school librarian sharing their experience with their school, and it just kind of was a lot to take in. One of the things that this librarian had done, she had taught over 800 lessons to students in that school in one school year. They talked about weeding, which is kind of like when they have to go and look at books on the shelves and make sure what's been checked out to make sure there's space for new titles. The number of books checked out in just that one school was over 8,000 so far in the school year. And it was also fascinating to see the data that our librarians are tracking. because they were looking at everything from what's the balance of fiction and nonfiction in their library, and how much of those are picture books versus, chapter books. And it was just such a fascinating experience to see kind of, I think one of the things that's really unique as board members is sometimes we get a behind the scenes look of things that are happening in the district. And it was just such a great experience to be surrounded by people who love literature, love reading, and are such an important part of our children developing, becoming lifelong learners. And so I was really privileged to be there. I just wanted to give a shout out to all of our librarians and the work that they do, and the contributions that they make to literacy, the contributions that they are making to meet the needs of our multi-language learners. I was having conversations with a couple of different elementary librarians about how they were working to make sure that every child in the school had access to books that were important to them. And it was just a really just amazing experience, and just nothing but gratitude for the phenomenal work that they do.
As I have visited various SEC meetings, one change that I really like that we've made is that schools make their own goal, but they chase them in the same areas. And one of the interesting things that I very much appreciate is a lot of our schools, within their connection goal, they have drilled all the way down. They've created spreadsheets, every student, and really made an intentional effort to ensure that every student in every building has connection to multiple adults. And I think sometimes when we talk about connection, it's a little bit of a buzzword, and but really thinking through and how our schools approach this to ensure that it is a meaningful connection, that it's a lasting connection, is a lot of work with the number of students we have. And so just very appreciative for all the adults in the building who are making sure that every child has a touch point, has somebody to support them and cheer them on, is a remarkable thing. So just wanted to thank them for their work in that area.
I think many of you are probably aware that there was a very interesting study that was released on February 1st that compared school districts in 41 states with their pre-COVID test scores and their current test scores, and looking to see how quickly they have recovered. And this study was done by researchers from Stanford and Harvard. It was printed several places. This version is from the New York Times. But I think it was really gratifying to see that Alpine School District is ranked very, very highly in terms of recovery. So what they did is compare test scores in 2019 and then test scores last year to see what the recovery rate was and kind of where we're at. And I think we have a huge shout out to our parents, our teachers, our principals for the fact that we kept our doors open and that our students had less decline than in many other states. And so according to this, Utah is way above the U.S. national average and a year ahead of a lot of other districts in the nation. So it's a huge shout out. That's a study that's available if you want to see it. But Alpine just shines nationally for what we did during COVID. So shout out and thank you to all of those who wrote lesson plans and all of those people who really stepped up and stepped in during COVID.
Tomorrow is a special day. Yes, it's Valentine's Day, but it's also Love the Bus Day. So we just want to express our appreciation for our bus drivers across the district. I had the opportunity a week or so ago to do an elementary run with a bus driver. And I believe we have a video coming out about that tomorrow. Just remarkable individuals who are part of the Alpine family, do a great job. So we're going to recognize them tomorrow. And then on Thursday is National School Resource Officer Day, and we want to extend our appreciation to those resource officers in our schools and the contribution they make to creating safe environments for our students. So grateful for our bus drivers and our school resource officers.
I just wanted to acknowledge that buried also in the routine business is the positive behavior plans for each one of our schools. And this kind of piggybacks on Stacy's comments that our principals and our school leadership have plans to address the kind of behavior issues that we've seen post-COVID. And I'm just impressed that each school has a plan, and I think that they can learn from each other as they develop those plans. Some of them are works in progress, but I really appreciate their efforts.
Okay, if there are no other comments, we have a brief statement we would like to share that is in response to some recent events in the state. The Alpine School District Board of Education encourages a culture of civility, respect, and integrity. And in fact, we're going to be taking the Dignity Pledge here sometime the next month or so. We recognize and value each student's individuality in our school communities, and we do not condone anything that would detract from their safety or hinder their ability to learn. Our schools are charged with educating all students at high levels, and as a board, we support them as they consider the needs of each student. As elected representatives, we ask our colleagues across the state to join us in committing to building a culture of connection and belonging and upholding the standards of the office that we hold with integrity and fidelity. Are there any other comments? Seeing none, we need a motion to adjourn.
I move that we adjourn.
And a second? Okay, it's been moved by Sarah and seconded by Ada. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? This meeting stands adjourned.